Football is our religion. The One Course Stadium is our church. Nigel Clough is still the God we choose to believe in, some of us anyway. And of course, Mansfield Town is the reason why we're here again on a Sunday. It's the Sunday Sermon. Mansfield Town lose 1-0 at home to Barrow, meaning yet again, those results continue to be bad for Mansfield Town. Can they turn things around? Is Nigel Clough in too deep? Can the Stags name a back four for next weekend's game at home to Oldham? And just when will Danny Johnson find his scoring boots? All questions we literally have no answers for, but here on the Sunday Sermon, we'll do our best to answer them for you. We want you guys to get involved as well, so get involved right now in the comments and have your say on your team. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Just who is to blame for Mansfield's depleting squad? Should the Stags have done more in the transfer window? And dare we even start talking about a change in the dugout? The answer to that is no, by the way. But everybody is entitled to their opinion, so come along and join us and have yours right now on the show for the fans, by the fans. Because win, lose or draw, Mansfield will always matter. Have you ever been standing in a storm and wondered how to get through? I imagine that's what Nigel Clough feels like right now. Take your seats, everyone. It's time for the Sunday Sermon. That is an absolutely belting cup of tea. If you want a cup of tea just like mine, well, you know, it depends on how you make it. Buy yourself a Mansfield Matters mug. All the details that you need are in the description. It says on my notes, chaps, to get straight down to the business. Is that not the business that we meant, Nathan Edge and Clive Park? Do we need to talk more about the on-pitch matters rather than trying to sell the mugs 2 seconds into the podcast?
The mugs will sell them.
It could be the only way they're going to see a cup this season, so, you know.
The mugs will sell themselves, quality always out. As completely opposed to the evidence on the pitch yesterday.
Let's delve straight into that. I'm joined, of course, by Clive Parker and Nathan Edge. If you've got no idea what we mean by buy a Mansfield Matters mug, you'll notice we've all got, well, I say all, we've got these brand new Mansfield Matters mugs which are on sale to support the podcast. If you want to buy one, they're just a tenner a piece. Unless you want them posted, then it's 15 quid. The link is in the description. Cheers, everyone. Sorry, Nate, you've not got one there.
I'm not cheersing you. I mean, this is so much to be angry about yesterday, but it just topped it off as I joined this stream ready for the podcast, and Craig drops a bombshell to say that he did have a mug for me yesterday, but he sold it. So I'm now mugless, so I'm even more angry if I couldn't get it.
Profits come first, mate. Profits come first. Let's delve straight in by deflecting that anger away from me, Nathan, because I feel it's there. I can feel it virtually to what happened on the pitch yesterday. Mansfield Town 0, Barrow 1. Another red card, another questionable decision from the referee. What did you make of it?
Top at league in the wrong aspect of discipline in bookings. But I mean, I don't know what I'm more frustrated about or disappointed about. I don't know if I'm more angry about the performance and the result, or by our fans' reaction afterwards over social media. There's so much to digest and go through, but there's just at the moment we are in a rut again, and we thought we'd stabilised, but those stabilisers have come off, and we've started dropping a little bit further and deeper, haven't we?
Yeah, we certainly have. We thought that, it all sorted itself out after last weekend's game at Leyton Orient Clive, but alas, another bit of excellent standard of refereeing in League Two. I've still no idea what he gave the penalty for, and I've watched it 1,000,001 times. But on the flip side of that, a deserved red card, because it did appear like Rawson did get a touch as the ball came back across and then bundled him down. So our defensive crisis continues.
Yeah, I think we're a bit unlucky with the official. I think he was a bit of a clown, but that's indicative of the standard of officials we get in League Two. I don't think we've seen a decent one yet. But we got what we deserved, really. We didn't deserve to win. They should have had 2 or 3 goals in the first half. But had it not been for the dubious penalty, we'd have had a clean sheet. And I suppose that's an upside-down way of saying we haven't moved too far away from the ambition. On another day, that wouldn't have happened. But we were, both teams were a poor example of League Two football yesterday. Any neutral watching that game would have said, "This is not for me."
Yeah, certainly so. It wasn't the greatest advocate of League Two football, but it has got fans talking, like Nathan said on social media. Let's kick off with Craig's comment. After calming down from yesterday, walked out before Faz was shown the red. We knew it was coming. Is Nigel Clough the problem? My thoughts after yesterday's game, but sacking managers will get us nowhere. Believe and let's hope it turns around quickly. Now, Nathan, we know you were very frustrated by this on social media yesterday. I was frustrated by it as well, and I've sort of spoken about it a little bit today. But sacking managers has got us absolutely nowhere over the last couple of years. I hate to talk about going back to that time, but even though we've got a new squad of players, we're at the start of the journey post Flitcroft, really. I won't delve into it too deeply, but sacking managers gets you absolutely nowhere. If we were bottom of the league, consistently losing games and shipping 2 or 3 or 4 a game with a full roster of players, then this conversation might be different. But we're in a very difficult and different situation, which I think a fair few, it's fair to say, are perhaps not looking at when they're having these discussions on social media.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I was so disappointed about. I mean, I tried to keep away after a defeat off of social media because I kind of know what's going to be there. But I went on last night and it was actually worse than what I anticipated. And that's what really got me frustrated about it. And I'm completely with you. I mean, if we sat here at Christmas time and we've continued in the same sort of vein that we are at the moment and not enough being done to change it, then we may be sitting here talking a different story. But that said, I think we do need to just look at a bit of longevity this time. We've been here in the past where we chop and change managers way too quickly. When you look at the caliber of manager we've got, are we really going to be able to go out? Who is available out there to really go and change it? Think, that person's going to come in and definitely make a big change without throwing loads of money at it. And I don't think that's an option now. So
do you know what? Sorry to cut you off. Go on. I was just going to say, there's the problem, right? We're not in the situation we were last year where we were losing games badly, obviously wasn't going to turn around, and we had a poor, inexperienced manager. But there was 4 or 5 or 6 managers out there that we could have brought in, and we brought in one who has got a stable reputation at minimising budgets and rebuilding clubs. But that takes time. He's started the process of doing that, and that takes 2 or 3 transfer windows. And B, if we got rid of him now, and if we did do that and looked at that because of the results that we're on, we've now got to do it all again. So then we're giving somebody, then we've basically writing off this season and next season in terms to try and turn it around again. And like you say, who comes in? There's only sort of one sort of candidate at the minute that's out there, and that's Flynn, who's just left Newport, who consistently has bottled promotion year upon year upon year upon year. Nigel Clough is a proven manager at streamlining budgets. We had a ridiculously high wage bill over the last couple of years. He's had to bring players in. Yes, he's not got the players that he was probably his A target. And we've said, week upon week about this, that our transfer business hasn't been good enough, but we take that on the chin. But just because we've not won in this amount of games, we get somebody else in. How long do we give them before we're asking questions about them? We have to have that
Richard Cooper
starters.
We know Richard Cooper would come in and get us going for a couple of games, absolutely, because he did the magic last time. But you're absolutely spot on, and this what you talk about Flynn there, and no doubt probably he's been mentioned one or two times by supporters who were Cardiff managers head already. But a few years ago, finishing fourth place and bottling playoffs wasn't good enough for the Stags, for the Stags fans. So, unless we're going to get a top three manager, which is a manager that can come in and get us guaranteed top three, I think a lot of people aren't going to be happy. So I think we need to just stick by it and get through this rocky stage. And I think I genuinely believe that we've got the man to do that, because he's proven it in the past, but he's not going to do it at the click of a fingers. I think, one, stick by him, but two, we need to also accept that there are issues lying. We have made mistakes in the transfer window, and that does need addressing. But I just think changing the manager is not the answer.
Do we need to have a little bit more of less expectations, Clive, and look at the much bigger picture here? Because personally, I think if we stick with Clough, in 3 seasons' time, we will be established in League One with the potential to push on and have the odd flirt with the League One playoffs and potentially dream about going up another level higher. But that's if we stick with him and if we're patient now.
Yeah, it's no good asking Mansfield fans to be patient, though. It's not in the culture. We have seemingly no patience at all with our managers. I
don't get why.
We're getting people calling them bottlers, and the people who are bottling are the fans at the moment in my world. We have every right to be unhappy with the results. Disappointment is everywhere. And I'm sure that's from the top of the club right the way through to the lowest member of the playing staff and club staff. And certainly the supporters will all have different levels of expectation. And perhaps we did start with too great an expectation, given that we've now got Clough on board and his background. I've always said you've got to give him all of this season before you can really judge him.
Exactly.
But I think the other thing is that we've come out of a very, very difficult financial environment, and we're still here. We've still got a viable club. And what Clough and the owners agreed on a 3-year agreement was that he would do everything within his power to get the club moving again in the right direction, which is something we all want. But he would do it without overspending, which is what some of the previous managers have done. So I think what he's doing is being criticised now in many respects for saving the club money, and of course everybody guesses how much money is being invested. Nobody, apart from the people who put the money in, know. But there's all sorts of conspiracy theories at the moment that the club are paying players too much, and the manager is got a bonus for not spending money. And I don't think any of that's true. I think we have found ourselves in a bloody hole that no one had predicted, and that's with people being unavailable for all sorts of reasons. And unfortunately, the people that are in this situation are the ones we depended most upon.
Exactly, and I think it's a really key point that when Clough came in, and we said this at the time, it was a case of rebuilding, getting rid of that squad and streamlining that squad. It takes more than one transfer window to do that. And when I talk about transfer windows, I'm not talking just about the summer transfer windows in January. January transfer window for me is just like filling up your car. It's a stopgap. You go out there, you get what you can to get you through to get to your next destination before you can look to rebuild and move cars or whatever and change vehicle or whatever and change direction. But
panic buy.
Yeah, correct. It is your traditional last couple of days before Christmas, isn't it? You panic buy, so you've not got your missus a decent present. It is your panic. Yeah, exactly. It is your panic buy. It is your classic panic buy. And clubs don't want to buy in January as much, and clubs who do want to buy in January find it difficult because clubs don't want to sell. And if you're not doing well, it's not an attractive thing to buy a player. Players will sit the contracts out, etc., etc. So you have to get through a full season. And I think it won't really be until the end of this season, start of next season, that we actually really see the work which Nigel Clough's done, because there are some players that are still here who I really, really think he'd have got rid of this summer if he could have paid up the contracts, or players would have come in for them. The fact is, we've got what we've got. We're not good enough in certain areas. We are missing a shed load of players who, if they were available, would certainly make the difference. And it's at the moment, all of this talk is just absolute knee-jerk reaction. Clough even said at the start of the season, he was asked at the start of the campaign, what are your ambitions for this season? He said, well, we're going to try and win promotion. But there's the key word. We're going to try. We're not going to. We are going to try. If we get there, we're up and around it. Fair enough. If we're not, we're not. We'll evaluate it and look what needs to be done in a second. Hand on heart, if we got rid of him and brought in somebody else, we'd be in the same position in 12 months' time. And then in another 12 months' time, we'd be the same, because it would be on a cycle, repeat it. We've got to have that circuit breaker. We've got to allow ourselves to rebuild and to develop. Sacking managers because of a couple of poor results and a couple of poor decisions is going to get us absolutely nowhere, bar for back where we don't want to be.
100%. And one of the things that bothers me as well at the moment, and I guess I know part of the reason why, but I don't think it's enough. Why, as Mansfield Town fans, a large proportion got such high expectations and feel like we're so entitled to go higher? Because you look at our history, 70s, all right, we managed to get ourselves to, I think the 70s when we got into the Championship, obviously way before our
I'm
time,
the authority
right?
on 70s.
Yeah, we had a little successful spell then, but you look at our history as a whole, most of the time we've been a League Two club, haven't we? If we're going to be completely honest, we'd like to say we should be higher and so on. And yes, I think off the pitch we are set up now to be higher, which is something we should be proud of. But it's not going to be an instant fix. We're not going to be able to click our fingers and just get up there. It's got to be a work in progress. And I can't get my head around why we're feel like we're so entitled to success now. We're not. We're lucky. We've got a wealthy backer and I say by that I mean to keep the club going, because it's an expensive hobby running a football club, that's for sure. But even throwing more money at it, look at Salford. You're not guaranteed success by just throwing money at it. There has to be more ingredients in the pan to keep you going up as progressing as a football club, and that's what's really bothering me. I think we need to have a bit of a reality check as Stags fans to think. And it's probably not helped a few years ago when Steve Evans came in saying it's a big promotion push and the hype was there to try and get people in the ground. That I understand that from a perspective from the club to try and build up that interest and get the town behind the club, but that failed. We've been over that many times for different reasons. But I think we now just need to be a bit more realistic as supporters and just support the club. It's really not that difficult. Yes, you're going to be disappointed, and yes, emotions take over, but ultimately, we're there to support the club.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to delve back through some of the comments because they've been flooding in as we've been talking about that. Lots of people having their own little arguments in there, which is brilliant to watch, to be fair. Jamie says, because the money that has been spent and Joe wants it, that's why there'll be a promotion push, or we should be in a promotion push. However, it's been a working process since we've been up there with the likes of Steve Evans. There's lots of comments coming in as well. Ashley is not happy with you, Nathan, from the look of this. He says everyone supports the club and they want to go up. Okay. Yeah, well, of course we all want to go up, but some of us realise that it's not going to happen like that. Some of us realise it's going to be a longer process and we've got to stick with the process.
Fans of 24 clubs this season that want to go up, and essentially 3 of them are going to be happy and the rest aren't. But it's just having a bit of realism.
We're not sitting here saying that us as a 3 don't want to see Mansfield get promoted, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. Of course we do. But what we're saying is, in order for us to do that, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. You've got to take the rough times with the smoother times. Let's delve back through some of these comments. Lee on the talk about changing managers says, we sack Clough and the reset button is set for the 4th time. Fans have to understand a rebuild takes time. Exactly. And he hasn't got the players he wants or needs. January will be a big window, but it will take another summer and probably another January window. It's a project, and we are pretty much at the start of that project. Absolutely, because the start of that project, really realistically, was A, sorting out the mess which Coughlin left, and B, getting rid of that whole team which had been on the hangover from when we were up there, when we were expecting to win promotion. That team, that core had gone rotten. That had to be changed, and it has changed now, but it's got to be built and built again. And when you throw in a pandemic into the mix in terms of not having that match day income, let's not forget that we've not had a match day income for an entire season like every other club in the country. And there's only so much money you can throw at keeping it alive. And that's why things have to be streamlined. Let's try and find some comments about yesterday's game, of course. Try and scroll through. So there are literally so many. Why don't you buy a good back four is a question, because it costs money. And I genuinely think Nigel Clough perhaps thought he had
I think
got
that
a
is a mistake, though, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
That we have done. We've said that at the end of the transfer window. We've clearly, a bit like January last year as well. Last season. We've clearly not quite done it in the transfer window, which is setting us up to have problems like we've got right now, and that's the disappointing thing. Somebody needs to address that issue. Whether it's scouts, I don't know.
Absolutely. Trying to find some comments about yesterday's game. Won't alter.
Sorry to interrupt you, Craig. There aren't that many comments about the game.
A lot are about the Clough thing. Like this one from Glenn, who says, "Won't alter. He's lost the dressing room after slagging players off in public, even though he was right. You don't do that." And to be fair, Clive, this is something you've been quite vocal about.
Yeah, I think he was wrong to do it. I'm not, at the end of the day, I'm not a big fan of failure. And I have no reason to think Clough is wonderful, but he is what we've got, and we've stuck with it for a while. And therefore, the only thing I want people to do is to get behind the club. And I know that every fan's entitled to be really disappointed, because we're in the middle of a bad run. And just as we got a chink of light, it's been swept away again. And there's no doubt about it. The squad of players we have is not good enough for promotion. And Clough and co have to take the responsibility for recruitment. They haven't done it as well as we would all want them to. We've had heaps of bad luck on top of that, but that's where we are. And it's where we go from here, and that will only get better if we all stick together. I know that sounds a bit like jolly hockey sticks. It's not intended to be. I mean, people are entitled to call the club whatever they want. And if they feel sufficiently badly about it, and someone commented about why should I spend my hard-earned wages watching that shower of sugar lumps, well, then you don't have to. It's a free world. Precisely. Go and watch the hockey or whatever else turns you on. But of course, we don't, because we actually all passionately want this club to do well. We're all completely passionately stuck to it. And some of us can handle disappointment better than others. That's the fact.
Richard says, can't keep blaming refs. Fact is, we failed to score at home to Barrow. 3 goals in 6 games. Disagree with Craig. Thought it was a penalty at the time and still do. Would not have been happy with 0-0. Need to be creating far more chances. I do agree with that we do need to be creating far more chances. And this begs a big question, Nath, over a certain Mr. Johnson. And you could perhaps look at perhaps a relationship with Clough. Clough said it in his post-match press conference, which we'll hear a little bit of, that Ollie Hawkins is the best defender and the best striker we've got at the minute, and he can only play in one bloody position. And at the moment, because of this terrible bad luck we've got, that position is centre half. But yesterday, he's got a striker in Danny Johnson, who we know can score goals, but needs to find a little bit of confidence, who he dropped.
There's 2 ways to look at it. I mean, obviously he didn't play great at Leyton Orient, did he? Again, really. So there's this. You can see the reasoning behind dropping him, but when you've not got Hawkins up there, you need him, really, don't you? And I'm not at the moment. I've not seen enough from Danny Johnson to think that he warrants a starting place. But at the moment, I don't think we've got much of a choice. So. I think we may have had to just start with him and go with him, or somehow rethink the back line and do something a bit different, whether it was a back 3, and try and work with that. I don't know, but he is correct. Hawkins at the moment is our best defender and best forward player. And I think there was a comment earlier, really, really early on. I can't remember who it is, so sorry about that. But someone said about McLaughlin's crosses going too deep, and we did have a lot going to the back post yesterday. but nobody was there. But that's just Hawkins is usually there.
Can I just
we're
interrupt you,
suffering.
Nathan? A lot of those crosses were actually to the corner flag, never mind the back of the box.
Well, so yeah, very very deep. But so I think in 6'6" maybe needs another few meters on there to get to them. But yeah, the problem is we are missing our threat going forward, and the real disappointing thing, and well, yesterday is that Barrow for me were the better side throughout all. We probably played better ourselves in the first half, but they were still better than us. But they weren't a great side, and that's a
No, they
concerning thing.
weren't.
They really weren't great. Well, they were okay. They weren't awful. But the fact they weren't great, but we weren't any better, and we were worse. Just yeah, made it feel 10 times worse that we came away with a 1-0 defeat, despite the poor referees. So I think in this league, poor for everybody. There's nothing against Mansfield Town.
I think the major difference between the two clubs yesterday was, I mean, both of them were fairly poor clubs. It's fair to say. They were better organised, but they played with more confidence, and it's the confidence that we're missing. And we can understand why that is, can't we?
I disagree with that. People calling Barrow a bad side, though. I think they've got a good manager there in Mark Cooper, who's got proven success in this league, and he's done well on a shoestring budget to build a good side. You don't get players like Ollie Banks and a few others that he's brought into that squad. I know, but you'd be pleased if you were playing for us. I'd love for us to sign a player like him. He's got a proven record in this league.
No way.
Well, no, he's got a proven record in this league. Jordan Barry played for him once, and yet we've accepted him.
True.
And I think Cooper is a good manager who's got a good side. Our problem is that we've not found our identity, and we've completely chopped and changed it every single week. Talking about Johnson, Richard says Bowery and Oates' work rate is why they're being picked before Johnson. Glenn says, I understand it's a project, but for God's sake, play with some passion. We don't look like a side at the moment, and keep it up. And this project will be in the next division down. Lee says, in my opinion, the diamond shape has to go, and a 4-4-2 when was the last time we've seen a player down at defenders? As a former defender, I can tell you at any level, defenders don't like players who run at them with the ball. And the plus to that is that it's also entertaining. We're going to have to do something, Clive. And I think the problem next week is going to be what shape we put at the back, because there's a big point here. For whatever reason, Nigel Clough doesn't seem to like playing younger players. He had the option to put James Clark at right back when Kel Gordon got injured. Didn't do it. Put Hewitt there and moved Hawkins back there, which, to be fair, got us a clean sheet. Now he's not got Faz for a game. Does he put Hewitt back into the middle and go with a back four and put James Clark at right back? Does he move McLaughlin into centre half and go Burke at left back? Or does he go with three at the back, which would be Hewitt, Hawkins and McLaughlin as three centre halves? We've got a big problem. What do we do, and how do we find an identity? Because as soon as we found it, we've got to stick with it. That's also the other conundrum we face.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because all of these options have merit, but they all depend on players performing properly. Every one of our defenders has got a mistake in them, and we've felt the pain from that. I don't have a great deal of confidence in Hewitt. But he hasn't done that much wrong, to be fair, in the last few games. And as you probably know, I'm quite warm to Faz. I think he's a decent enough player, and he made a cock up of that yesterday. But by and large, other than that, he was okay. So I don't think we're a million miles away from it. And talk of shipping 4 or 5 new defenders in is probably never going to happen. But you're right. What format do you use to get the safest option, and yet to try and give yourself a bit of freedom to attack? And I'm not sure. I don't like the diamond because I think it's difficult for me to understand, for nothing else. But that's my age. But I like banks of 4. I'd have that every time. But and I think one of the criticisms I hear, and I actually subscribe to about Brian Clough, about Nigel Clough, is he doesn't seem to want to change things. And I don't believe a good manager should be that stuck in his way. He should be looking to investigate. And I have to say, if Clark doesn't get on the sheet next week, I'd be asking myself, do I really want to stay at this club? Because he's worth that. Under these circumstances, he's worth a try.
If he gets a run of games, I say it every time we talk about him, he will develop into a very good League Two player who we can sell for profit in the future. Nick says we really need a captain on the pitch yesterday to shout and ball and drag the players through the game, but didn't have one. And looking at the players we have, I'm not sure we even have that sort of player in the club. I have to say, Nath, when we do talk about leaders, sometimes I do have to ask questions about the captain we've got. But there are different ways and different styles of captaincies, but we certainly need somebody to step up as a collective and pull us through the mire and pull us out of this storm.
The only thing I can think is when Quinn's back from suspension, he might scare a few into playing better, otherwise he'll threaten to hit him. I don't know, but no, there is leadership issues. I think in the team throughout, really, in some aspects. But again, we've got to also remember we are missing quite a lot of key players. So we've got to remind ourselves of that at the moment. We are missing key players, and that is obviously going to have an effect. Question marks over captaincy. I mean, I said this at the end of last season about Ollie Clark. I mean, I wasn't actually that fussed about keeping him, but I certainly probably would have looked at other options for captaincy at the very least. He was brought in as captain for under Coughlin. So I think it should have been when Clough came in, clean slate. To whether he did do that, obviously we don't know because we're not a part of the dressing room.
I think he had Tom Naylor in mind for captain, didn't he?
Yeah,
I agree.
So possibly, yeah. So, again, that's something else that's missing. By missing that defender, we've also maybe missed a leader as well. So, and then we've not had the plan B in recruitment, which is, again, something that we spoke about earlier. So there's a few issues, isn't there? You look at captaincy, you look at players missing, you look at recruitment, especially in the defensive area, injuries, suspensions, discipline. There's a lot of things there that need addressing. And then, you also talk about formations, but the positive, in some ways, it might be positive because he might be forced into a change due to personnel that's available. So I guess we'll have to see.
But it's a perfectly valid question that was posed. Who should captain the side? We haven't got a captain. I don't think Clark's a captain. There's nobody else nudging him out the way either. When Birch was playing, he would have made a better captain in my world simply because he was senior. We have got a fairly young side. But, they should all be captains. Lapsley, Hawkins, if he spends as much time shouting at his own colleagues as he does shouting at referees, I'd give him a bit more credit.
What about Ollie Hawkins? He's at the moment the only player who's consistent. Consistently good when he's up top, and consistently, even better than any of our defenders at the moment. So he's leading. He's not necessarily young. He's experienced. He's for me at the moment. We're kind of looking a bit more like a one-man team, and he's the one that's almost holding us together in certain aspects.
Ashley in the comments keeps saying bringing David Wheaton. Now, if anybody listens to the Under the Cosh podcast, which is a brilliant podcast, they will know that's not going to be a viable option, seeing as he's, I believe, now moving into to other areas. I think he's playing at a non-league side now and sort of looking towards the back end of his career. So maybe a year or so ago, possibly, but not sure. In terms of captains, Jim says Macca is a leader and a captain. For me, I have to agree with Nathan, I think, in some ways. I think either Hawkins or Quinn, but it's a difficult one because you've got to find where we are. Nick says, really hoping that the players that are out come back and make a big difference. And that's the key thing because we have got so many missing now. And it's a huge, huge concern. It's not just at the back. We've still got Quinn missing for another 2 games. Sinclair, another 2 games. Obviously, Rawson now for a game. You've got Narty. You've got Forrester, who were both out injured. Gordon slightly injured. Stirk missing, of course, out injured. The list seems to be endlessly going on and on and on, which is a huge, huge concern. I think as soon as Stephen Quinn's back there, we're going to make a difference. And I think we might see that a little bit on Tuesday night because, ironically, for a meaningless cup game for many people, although I think it is meaningful, but that's another debate for another time, we've actually got more players available for a Tin Pot Cup game than we have for a critical League Two game with the side that are just below us at the bottom of the table. That's a concern, Clive, isn't it?
It is. It'll be interesting to see how they perform on Tuesday because, as you rightly say, the suspended players can play and he will play them.
Will. Yeah, they will.
Absolutely will play them. It'll be a question of what he puts around them as much as anything. But we, as you say, we are where we are. We've got what we've got. The two players that were bought on deadline day were clearly panic buys. They weren't what they went out looking for. They were what they could get. And we bought one with a walking stick, and the other one has developed the need for a walking stick very quickly. Just, is that bad luck? Is it bad management? I don't know. It's probably a combination of the two.
Well, I think it's time now to speak management. We've had debates about whether or not he should be remaining in his job. We've given our views on it. You've given your views on it in the comments as well. But let's get his views on the game yesterday. Of course, the Stags losing 1-0 at home to Barrow, where Nigel Clough talks about the performance. And first and foremost, whether or not he believes the goal which eventually won the game for Barrow was a penalty, or was it a penalty, or was it not a penalty? Here are Nigel Clough's views, speaking to I Follow Stags.
I just saw him make a challenge at the far post, the like of which you see numerous of throughout the game, and then there was no penalty given for several seconds, which, according to the fourth official, was thinking time. That worries me tremendously. Last time we saw this referee was at Cheltenham away in the FA Cup, and the decisions by the officials that day contributed to us being knocked out, and unfortunately their decisions today have contributed to the result. I wasn't too disappointed with the way we played, especially first half. I think the penalty was such a setback. We were settling into the second half. It was us pressing, as we did most of the game. We set up to attack, to go forward. We're not getting one break with any single.
That's very frustrating that Nigel Clough has just decided to freeze on me. We'll give that a try again in a second. Let's have a little listen to this. Let's see if it works again this time around. Sorry about that, folks.
I just saw him make a challenge at the far post, the like of which you see numerous of throughout the game, and then there was no penalty given for several seconds, which, according to the fourth official, was thinking time. That worries me tremendously. Last time we saw this referee was at Cheltenham away in the FA Cup, and the decisions by the officials that day contributed to us being knocked out, and unfortunately their decisions today have contributed to the result. I wasn't too disappointed with the way we played, especially first half. I think the penalty was such a setback. We were settling into the second half. It was us pressing, as we did most of the game. We set up to attack, to go forward. We're not getting one break with any single thing at the moment anywhere on the pitch. We've had one kicked off the line, Ollie Hawkins in the first half. We've had a chance in the 93rd minute with Danny Johnson, who just headed it over the bar. I thought we got in some very good positions again today. Didn't hit the target enough, didn't work the goalkeeper, hence no goals. I think we had 5 shots in the first half from around the edge of the box and missed the target all 5. It's the sort of day, we talked about it before, conditions are tricky for goalkeepers. Hit the target, make him make a save. You never know, one might sort of slip through his fingers, anything, but it won't if you keep missing the target. I think we're pretty solid. I think Nathan Bishop, apart from late on when we're pressing forward and on the break a couple of times, I thought we were pretty solid today. Nathan's not had too much to do. And I thought the least we deserved was a clean sheet today and a point. Yeah, just try and shake it up and get Ollie Hawkins up front. At the moment, he's our best centre half and our best centre forward. So 1-0 down with 20 odd minutes to go. We have to sacrifice him at the back and put him up there. We went to 3 centre halves, try and get Jordan wide. He's up front, Ollie's up front with Danny. We've got laps breaking forward from there. Harry Charsley on the right, get some balls in the box, and it very nearly paid off.
Very nearly, but not quite, Nigel. Nigel Clough speaking to I Follow Stags after yesterday's 1-0 defeat at home to Barrow. For more interviews, you can visit mansfieldtown.net/ifollow. Quick time to tell you about away travel, of course. Northampton up next for the Stags if you want to travel with the SSA. It's £10 for an Amber member, £15 for a blue member, £20 for a non-member. Call 07 967 689 597. That's 07 967 689 597 to book yourself a seat on the coach for Northampton away next week. Now, Nathan, yesterday, not only did you endure a Stags defeat, but also you had to put up with a walk in the pouring rain, but it was all for a good cause. Tell us a little bit about what you were up to yesterday.
Yeah, we some of you may have seen it on the club website, but my dad organised an event for Prostate Cancer UK. We did an event entitled 90 minutes plus 90 minutes plus added time. So we had sets of fans leaving from north, west, east, and south of the the ground 90 minutes away to walk in, and all met up at the ground, all in aid of the charity. So it was a lovely day for it as well, which is why, previously we've done many walks for guide dogs in particular. The reason I sent through such a confident scoreline prediction is because we'd never had lost until yesterday. So the day was dampened in so many different ways.
Let's brighten it up a little bit because we want to try and raise as much as we can for the charity. Just remind us of the charity again.
Yeah, so it's for Prostate Cancer UK. I know you shared the link, didn't you, yesterday? I know, yes, as of yesterday, the total was at 1,200, which is absolutely incredible. So, if anybody does feel sympathetic of how drenched we all actually really did get, and obviously we, it's for an incredible cause as well. So if anyone can spare anything, that would be massively appreciated. But yeah, it was, despite the result, we still all enjoyed getting out there supporting a fantastic charity.
Yeah, the link in the description is in the description to the video. I'll pop it in the link to the chat in a couple of minutes' time. If you wish to donate, and you do donate, leave a little message and just end it by saying, "Because Mansfield matters." Take a screenshot and send it us, and we'll give you one of these. We'll put you in a draw to win one of these ever-fetching, brand new Mansfield Matters mugs. They're on sale now on our website. The link also in our description for a tenner. But if you donate anything from £1 upwards, take a screenshot on that link and send it to us on Twitter or Facebook, and you'll win yourselves one of these brand new Mansfield Matters mugs. They're limited edition. There's only a certain amount available, and you'll get yours before Nathan gets his. So not only did Nathan do all the walking
joining myself
and raise lots of money already, but he is also, he's also going to get a mug after you guys. So if you can donate, please do. We'll pop the link in the chat in just a second. Take a screenshot, send it to us, and we'll get you one of those Mansfield Matters mugs. Whilst I do that, whilst I dig out the link, Clive, I'm going to throw it over to you. Obviously, there's not a lot we can do about the result. It is what it is. We've got to take it on the chin, but it's a huge opportunity on Tuesday night as the Stags face Sheffield Wednesday in the second of 3 Papa John's Trophy games. It's a big opportunity for them to go and get themselves put themselves in Nigel Clough's thoughts ahead of Saturday's game, a crucial game at home to Oldham.
Yes, it's just, in many ways, you don't want this fixture, but on the other side of the coin, you do, because they need to get themselves harnessed again before next week when we play Oldham, which should be infinitely winnable. We said that about Barrow, of course, but the match will give the club an opportunity to blood some of the younger players who have not managed to get into Clough's thoughts for the league fixtures. Was it you that coined the phrase that law was knocking at the door? And what was the other one?
I think that was you. I don't think I
was
did.
that me? No, it was somebody else. I mean,
you definitely said it a lot.
We got very rhymey at one point, but it's perfectly true that there's 3 or 4 lads that deserve
Bring
a
Clark
chance.
out of the dark.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and I think we'll see them on Tuesday, and I think they'll get a fair number of minutes as well, which will be good to watch. Interestingly, as well, Sheffield Wednesday are taking it far more serious than we are because they're filling the away stand for this Papa Luigi Trophy.
Yeah, lots of interesting things going off there at the minute. Some protests and what have you, aren't there?
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting atmosphere when ordinarily you wouldn't have expected much of an atmosphere. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually looking forward to watching us play again next weekend against Oldham, and followed that with a trip down to see Danny again. You lost it.
I've not lost it because I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about. To be honest, I've not got a clue of. I've not got a clue who you're talking about. What's his name?
Danny Rose. Just for you. Yeah, but I've always enjoyed a trip to Northampton anyway. And of course, after that, we've got a bit of a longer trip down to Exeter. So there's some interesting fixtures coming along.
Yeah, it's a busy month. We'll be on the coach again for that one. So make sure you come and say hello. Lots of people did last time. And by the way, if you buy yourselves a Mansfield Matters mug, we'll bring them to you on that day of the X game or next week at home to Oldham or Tuesday night. £10. Link in the description. Or you can get on the link in the chat, donate to Nathan and Mick's fundraiser, take a screenshot, tag us in it on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll put you in a draw to win one of those Mansfield Matters mugs. That's the last time I'll talk about these mugs.
No.
Yeah. Plenty of mugs on the field, weren't there, on Saturday?
I'm still getting mugged off that I ain't got a cup.
Yeah. So I have to say that, I understand, going back to a lot of the comments we've been getting, and a lot that were in social media, fans have every right to get mardy about the whole thing. And I think, we all moan and groan when we see stupidity on the pitch, and we've had our share of that. But we just have to cross our fingers and hope that things are going to move forward. And we're still very early in the season. Let's remind ourselves of that.
I'm going to coin another phrase from another popular podcast called Shagged, Married, Annoyed by Chris and Rosie Ramsey, where they do, it's an excellent podcast, by the way, very, very funny. They do a section called Questions from the Public. Today, I was sent a couple of questions from the public, from somebody that couldn't watch the podcast but wanted to get involved with the podcast. There are 5 questions slash points here. I'm going to run through them very quickly. They're all from Jamie. We've covered one of them already, but we'll get brief answers from the both of you on the first one. And it's this. It's not should we sack Nigel Clough. It's do you think Nigel Clough will walk if there's no improvement? Nathan, I'm going to go to you first.
No, I don't. I don't think he'll walk now.
Clive?
No.
Right, that one ticked off. That one's done. The second point is it true Nigel Clough didn't sign the players but he wanted different players in the summer? Now, this one, it's an interesting discussion, isn't it? He has a team who are purposely in a job to bring those players in, one of which is his brother. So if you can't trust your own brother and his judgment to bring in players and things like that, then what can you do? Obviously, he missed out on players that he wanted, aka Tom Naylor and a few other targets as well. Hence why we ended up with the players we got on deadline day. But do I think that he doesn't want the players that he's got? Not necessarily. Clive, your take?
I can't get myself in his head. I mean, and nor any manager for that matter. I mean, everybody at the moment, quite rightly, is querying the decision to let out on loan some of the players that are performing incredibly well elsewhere. There's no guarantee they'd have played incredibly well in our setup. So you have to trust the judgment of the management team to let players go. But let's remind ourselves the reason who's letting players go and the reason we've got a fairly small squad is to work within a budget. And that's why Danny Rose moved on, because there was a fee involved and his salary was paid by somebody else.
Say it again, Clive.
And CJ equally, but that was a career move, which we think is worthy as well. And we let... and then with that, the lanky sod who went to Bradford and started like a trainer.
I'm not playing for that one.
He's turned into a carpat as he normally does. So I think they had to balance the books, and you're going to make mistakes. And for God's sake, they're all human. And there's also chemistry. There are going to be players that don't get on with each other or with the management team, and you can't legislate for that. For God's sake, the arguably the most successful British manager of all time has made a career out of falling out with folk. Alex, by the way, if you were not sure I'm talking about.
I knew you were talking about.
The same guy who got off to a very slow start at Manchester United.
Yeah, absolutely. He was one game away from being sacked, wasn't he?
Sacked, yeah. I know we're not saying Nigel Clough is Alex Ferguson, but he could be the League Two, so Alex Ferguson, who knows?
Well, you look at the time he spent at Burton, his initial spell, and there's certainly comparisons. Carry on, Nate, sorry. No,
it's fine. Just going back onto that point, the question about Jamie's, about sort of, is Nigel Clough choosing the players? I think probably where this whole rumour is coming from is just because of the simple fact that David Sharp does the negotiating, he does the deals. But I have no doubt in my mind, could be wrong, it's only in my opinion, but I have no doubt in my mind that he will be working closely with Nigel and Simon Clough, to compile that list together. But the thing is, it's then they'll give their list of option A, B through to Z and so on, which I think we've hit Z a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's just up to David Sharp to try and get them over the lines. But I'm not, and this isn't a criticism of David Sharp either. I just think sometimes there's certain factors that go into signing players and whatnot, and a bit like the Tom Naylor situation, things happen that are completely out of your control, and it's just up to us as a club as dealing with it with Plan Bs. I think it's just that we're falling short a little bit with the Plan Bs and Cs and so on, where we've not quite managed to get them over the line properly. But I don't believe for 1 minute they're not Nigel Clough's players. I don't think he's getting the team, the players signed for him that he isn't asking for. I don't think that's the case.
You see, he doesn't do himself any favours when he shouts them out publicly, because I don't agree with it. Someone else earlier commented on it. It makes you think that there's disunity. Well, there may not be. He may well have agreed it with the player beforehand. He's going to shout him out on public media, but I don't agree with it, and I don't think you should ever do that. You keep your arguments in the changing room. But what do you do with the moment? I mean, there's lots of criticism of the lad. I say a lad, he's a full-grown man. There's a lot of criticism of him, but he's only got so many tools at his disposal at the moment. And the circumstances that he's found himself in, he couldn't have predicted. So any Plan Bs and Plan Cs were predicated on normality, which hasn't happened. So I'm not sure. I think it's dead easy to criticise a manager, and football fans everywhere are very good at doing that. And I think we will just need to breathe in a bit for another month, maybe. And I think things will start to turn.
I'm going to go to the next point. I was going to leave this a little bit because I wanted to throw one at Nathan, which is going to ride in one of the 5 points. But I'm going to go to this one because Roger's just made an excellent point and it fits in very, very well. He says, look, there's 3 people on the bench that deserve a go in the team. JC, JL, KW, James Clark, Jason Law, Keaton Ward. Why haven't they been used more? And this was another question which I got from Jamie, which was, is he scared to play the younger lads? And I've got one of my frustrations with Nigel Clough is I don't have too many of them, but one is he's not reactive enough. And yes, we had a very young bench yesterday, and some may argue that, in a game, in a situation like that, it's not the right thing to put them in there. But why are they bloody there in the first place? Give them an opportunity, even if it's just fresh legs, getting at people and having a go. There's absolutely nothing wrong with giving them an opportunity, because when they were given it last season, they certainly lifted towards the back end of it and did really, really well. Sinclair's been given opportunities. All right, it went a little bit wrong for him because he got sent off at Orient. Jason Law, he got on the pitch a little bit yesterday, but not enough time to really settle in, and was all over the place really because we didn't have a system for him to fit there. But certainly James Clark, Keaton Ward, young Burke as well. Does he have is he scared to play the young lads, Nath? Is he a little bit resistant? Does he not think that they're good enough?
I mean, it would appear that way. You can kind of understand why I might be a bit scared, because as soon as we go on a little bit of a run, people are shouting for his head. So you can understand that to a certain extent. But the bit that sort of makes you think they should be given a bit of a chance is I kind of feel like they earned it a little bit last season when we needed them, when we really had to rely upon them. The likes of Sinclair and Law, those 2 in particular, and then Keaton Ward towards the end of the season as well. For the second half of the season, they did a lot to keeping us up. At one point we were looking at relegation, weren't we? So I think they deserve a bit of credit for what they did last season, and I think they deserve a shot for this season. So you think now, of all times, while we're missing players and so on, put them in rather than trying to fit, square pegs in round holes. James Clark should be playing right back at the moment. I've got no doubts about that whatsoever. And when you're fitting other players to go elsewhere, if you put James Clark right back, Hewitt can still go in centre back, and you keep your best striker up the top. Why shuffle it around unnecessarily when there's a player who, from what we've seen so far, seems capable enough on the bench in James Clark? I know he's young, but every time he's played, he hasn't done that much wrong, has he?
No, he hasn't, and I think that's a big point. Obviously, with Rawson missing for one game, you've got to leave Hawkins there for at least
I meant
one
for
game.
Barrow.
But absolutely. But I completely agree. He should have been playing as soon as Kel Gordon was out injured. I understand to a degree why he didn't play at Leyton Orient, because it's a tough place to go. They were riding high. They're a physical side, and to be fair to him, he's not the most physical of players. He's quite small for a right back, but he does well to get up the pitch and gets us going, and that's what we've been needing a little bit, especially with Charlesley now, who can get back there. If we play a flat 4-4-2 with Charles down the right hand side, I think James Clark will be absolutely fine, and there's no doubt in my mind that he'll play on Tuesday night against Sheffield Wednesday. If he has a good game and he's not playing on Saturday, like Clive said earlier in the podcast, I'd absolutely be saying, is this for me? Is this the right club for my development? And I think the same can be said for the others, which is why I certainly think Tuesday is a huge opportunity for those players. The next one, which Jamie said, that is a little question for me to put to you guys was, in his opinion, Jamie Reid, who we let go to Stevenage, is better than Rhys Oates? Torch paper lit for Nathan.
That's his opinion?
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so that one. And he's finally...
Go on, Clive.
I think I just quickly remind myself of how much crap that lad got from the fans last season. And it was inevitable that wherever he went, he would shoot and score. I liked him as a player, but he never made it at our club. And sometimes these things aren't meant to happen. So I don't think so, is the answer to your question. I think Oates has probably got more to come than we were ever going to get from Reid.
Two different style players as well. And his fifth and final point was, we need to improve and fast. Yeah, we can't disagree with that. Let's move on a little bit. Then we will be doing our man of the match votes because Nathan needs to do his coveted tweet. It's part of his weekend. And let's face it, so far on the podcast,
Nathan's not had too much to do.
I just wanted an excuse to play that, to be honest. So there you go.
Nicely done, well done.
Thank you very much.
That.
Not as seamless as I would have liked it, but it's all good. It's all good fun. Sue says in the comments, "Are the players being paid too much? Call me old-fashioned. Dock the players' bully wages." Yeah, absolutely agree. I would if it got results, but it's almost a little bit like the whole thing with the calling them out in the interviews afterwards, isn't it? It doesn't always work that way. Vic says, why is the dressing room not pulling together? It's a shambles, and we'll start getting the man of the match votes in just a second. But, we're going to go around the grounds in a second and find out the scores from yesterday as well before we do the man of the match vote. But before we do, Nath, genuinely, we are in a precarious position, but we've got plenty of games upcoming this month to put it right. The games are coming thick and fast. Hopefully, come the end of it, we'll have a few more players back. And for me, getting Stephen Quinn back in the side is a huge bonus and a huge plus. And I think we'll see that definitely more come Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Sorry, not Saturday afternoon. I didn't mean Saturday afternoon. I knew what I said there. I meant Tuesday night. I just correct myself. Yeah.
A bit like Clive said earlier, we are only 10 games in, and there's so much more football to be played. And at the moment, we're probably, touch wood, I think we're probably going to be at the weakest squad-wise. We probably will be throughout the whole season. So it's going to be tough at the moment. And when we do start getting these players back, then I think we will improve. Yesterday, if we had a fully, all our players to choose from, do I think we'd have lost that game? No, I don't. I truly believe that. So we will improve. Just going on to that last comment, you read out a minute ago about the dressing room not pulling together. The difficulty is this time last week we all felt they were at Leyton Orient. We put in a very solid sort of performance as a unit, as a defensive unit, and everyone did seem to be playing together. I just think, when you come away with a defeat in the manner we did, it puts a different perspective, doesn't it? So I do think we are going to improve, but I think we might have a little bit of more of a storm to weather until that comes. In some ways, I'm glad we've got Sheff Wednesday in a game that doesn't matter too much on Tuesday night, to hopefully try and bounce back and get a result, which would be nice. But I am a little bit worried about Oldham, because if we do lose to that, people will lose their heads because they're a club in a mess. So I think in some ways, concerningly, it's kind of a must-win game, because I will be staying off social media afterwards because I won't want to see what's being written because I can just preempt it now.
Yeah, let's leave that one until midweek. Of course, we'll catch up in midweek when we'll look ahead to that Oldham game. But for now, let's head round the grounds in League Two whilst you two start to have a little think about who you think should be voted as Mansfield Matters man of the match in yesterday's 1-0 defeat at home to Barrow. Elsewhere in League Two then yesterday, it finished Bradford City 2, Rochdale 0. Bristol Rovers 1, Swindon Town 3. Carlisle United beaten 2-0 at home to Forest Green Rovers. Same scoreline at Colchester between Colchester and Salford. Exeter and Walsall played out a 2-2 draw in Devon, whilst Newport County and Mike Flynn's final game were 3-0 winners over Scunthorpe United. Northampton, who the Stags play, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, were beaten 2-0 at home to Sutton United, whilst Oldham, who the Stags play on Saturday, next up in League Two, were beaten 2-1 at home to Harrogate Town. Port Vale, 3-2 winners at home to Leyton Orient, whilst Stevenage were 2-0 winners at home to Hartlepool. And finally, in League Two, Tranmere Rovers 2, Crawley Town 1. The League Two table then is as follows. Forest Green Rovers sit top of the tree with 7 wins from their 10 games so far, 2 draws and a defeat. 23 points sees them clear at the top. Harrogate in second, Port Vale in third. The Stags at the wrong end of the table at the moment, just above the drop zone in 22nd with 9 points, 2 wins, 3 draws and 5 defeats. Oldham in 23rd on 7 points. Scunthorpe 24th, also on 7 points. 1 worse goal difference though. The Stags on -5 at the moment, but there's not too much in it. A couple of wins here and there, and the Stags will certainly climb the table. Big game though next Saturday as the Stags take on Oldham in Sky Bet League 2. More on that in midweek after that Sheffield Wednesday game in the Cup. But for now though, let's turn our attention to who gets your man of the match vote for yesterday's 1-0 defeat at home to Barrow. Surely going to one man. So Mansfield Town 0, Barrow 1 was the full-time score in Sky Bet League 2 yesterday. But who is going to get your man of the match votes? Let's go over to Clive first. How many contenders are in the mix for you?
Only 2, but 2 honourable mentions. Those being Bowery, he worked really hard again, and Charlesley worked hard. But I narrow down my choice between Bishop and Hawkins, and I give it Hawkins narrowly.
So a vote for Ollie Hawkins. Nathan, who are you going to go for?
There's only one contender for me and 2 special mentions. You know, if I'm going to push the vote out a little bit. 2 mentions, 2 names Clive mentions there. One Hawkins, again, didn't really do anything wrong back there. Well, did a lot right, actually. And the other player was Harry Charlesley, who I think, started to get back to sort of what we know he was like last year. So, he worked hard and did okay. But the man of the match, even though he didn't have a lot to do, apparently, which is, I disagree with that, was Nathan Bishop.
So far, Nathan Bishop and Ollie Hawkins in the race. Honourable mention for Harry Charlesley from me. I thought he had a good game back into the side for a start for the first time in a long while. I was very pleased when I saw his name on the team sheet yesterday. I thought he had some good energy. But yeah, 2-horse race for me, and that was between Bishop and Ollie Hawkins. I'm going to give it to Ollie Hawkins because technically, from open play, it was another clean sheet because it was from a set piece, a spot kick where we scored. He looked solid again at the back, looked stable, and when he went up front, we actually did look dangerous again. So I think his experience and his flexibility and fluidity certainly impressed me. So my vote is going to go to Ollie Hawkins. Let's have a little look in the comments, though. Roger has gone for Bishop. Nick has gone for Bishop. Richard says, Rawson man of the match until the red card, but Bishop gets my nod. So with 4 votes to 2, Nathan, you'll be tweeting a fellow Nathan in Nathan Bishop.
Yeah, I mean, what a name. Yeah, so that's all that can be said.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, if that's the only reason that you're going to give him your vote and you're going to like him this season, then all I can say is this.
That worries me tremendously.
You've been waiting for that, haven't you? All night.
And it just came into my head then, thinking, can I make it work? Can I make it work? And I either did or I didn't. You guys will be the judge of that. That's almost all we've got time for, of course. Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup up next. No podcast predictions for that one because it's a Cup game. But I do want to clarify something on podcast predictions because it's another way for you to win one of these glorious mugs. You can win one of these mugs in our podcast prediction league this October. And all you've got to do is be the best out of all of the listeners and viewers in that podcast league this October. This is how podcast predictions work if you've not heard of it before. Before every single league game, all you need to do is go on our little link, enter your name, enter the scoreline, and then enter goal scorers for a bonus point. Now, Nathan, you had a bit of a gripe about this in the week, didn't you?
Well, I did when we very first started up as well. Yeah.
Well, come at me.
Well,
I'm ready for you.
It was more Clive that.
It was me that was griping.
Started on me, to be fair.
Oh, go on then. Go on then.
I mean, I went for a 5-0 victory. I don't know, very optimistic. Pessimist Craig sorted me out. But yeah,
I wouldn't let you change it though. I wouldn't let you change it.
For the simple reason, I went for 5 different goal scorers. I thought the chances are I should get it. I was going to go 11-0. You know, if I can pick the first 11 and someone scores, you know, bonus points.
Expecting Bishop to score, were you?
Okay. Now,
I mean, it's the best chance we've got.
This is where I need to clarify some rules for you guys at home, in case you're thinking of trying to use this little loophole as well. If you want to go with an 11-0 win, you are perfectly within your right to name 11 different goal scoring options. But if you go for a 2-0 win, you can only name a maximum of 2. So you can't, because I know what your thinking was, Nathan. You were thinking that I'm just going to start naming every single player, weren't you? You're just going to type in the whole squad every week. That was your thinking, right?
Well, it was every week I go for quite a low scoring game, but then you guys 3-1s and all that. I thought, hold on a minute, you're getting extra player here. No, I'm not having it. This was playing the game, and this was getting. I was getting very, very disgruntled. Sat here at home, I'm reading my messages in the group chat. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get my own back this week. And then we lose, we don't even score. So whatever. But yeah, so this is a loophole that needs fixing, lads.
Well, it's not a loophole because I'm clarifying it for you now. If you go for a 2-0 win, you can only name a maximum of 2 goal scorers. You can say somebody will score twice, but they've got to score twice. I'm going to start blocking people in the chat in a minute. There's some
there's some right stuff on coming on there.
Some ludicrous, idiotic comments. So I'm going to start blocking people in the chat, I think, for comments like that. It's let's go back to what I was saying. Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where like I say, if we go for a 2-0 win, you've got to only name a maximum of 2 goal scorers. If you want to put someone's going to score twice, they've got to score twice. So you can't be saying 11-0. If you say 11-0 and you want to name all the goal scorers, then that's fine. But you can't be saying 1-0 and then naming 11 goal scorers is my point.
Yeah, but nobody's saying that, Craig. What we're saying is, if you get a win, if we win 1-0, it's the same points bonus to us as if we win 11-0. So you still get a point for the result. Now then, if you say we're going to win 11-0 and you put 11 different players down, if 2 goals are scored in that win, then it's almost certain that the 2 goal scorers are in that list of 11.
Yeah,
which means you're rigging the deck. So we're trying not to do that, Craig, and we're giving you the chance to correct your mistake here.
Go on, just clarify.
You're so bloody minded, you don't do it.
Clarify what my mistake is then.
Let me tell you how others do it. They say you can lay as many against chances against other players as you like. You can do the 11-0 if you like, but for every player you name that doesn't score, you lose a point.
I mean,
so then you're more realistic, aren't you?
Yeah, because if
far too much work for me.
I know, but
if I stuck with the 5-0, but we only won 2-0, I'd have got the point. You've got 1 point for the result. You've got 1 point for the result, not 3. The chances are I probably would have got those goal scorers as well because I put so many goal scorers. So I'd have got bonus points, which I don't really deserve.
Listen,
that's the problem.
Listen, we'll see where we are at the end of this month. If I'll keep a close eye on it. But it's far too much work for me if I have to start deducting points for people that have put incorrect goal scorers, because as it's been said on this podcast numerous times, usually by Cam, I can't do maths, so it's too much work for me. I'm too busy. I can't be going with it as well. So
We'll let you off.
how about only getting bonus points if you get the score right? Something to bear in mind, Nick. I might go for that, but that's why I went for 3 points if you get the score, the score line right. So don't know, we'll have a little think about it. But anyway, the point is, play along with podcast predictions, no matter how many of the loopholes there are. And if you're the best listener, best viewer, you win one of these Mansfield Matters mugs. If you're not, and you just want to support the podcast and you want to buy one of these Mansfield Matters mugs, then you can head to our website. The link is in the description, mtfcmatters.co.uk. Click on Club Shop, submit your details in there, and we'll be in touch, and we'll flog you one of these beauties for just £10. All of the profits support the running of the podcast. As you know, we've changed a little bit this year. We've got different bits of software which allow us to do different things, and all of that supports the running costs of that. And already, I have to say, the sales and the purchases which you guys have made have enabled us to cover the cost of actually putting the podcast out on there, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and all of those places. The mug sales and the purchases so far have enabled us to do that for the entire season. So thank you very much from that, first and foremost. We are going to be bringing you some new stuff as well in the coming months, some quiz nights, some events as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. There are big things coming. And if you want to support us, you've enjoyed what you've listened to or whatever, go ahead and buy a mug, or play along with podcast predictions and try and win a mug, or donate to Nathan and Mick's fundraiser. Send us a screenshot and you'll win a mug. Mugs, that's what we are for watching Mansfield Town every single Saturday perform like they have been doing. Talking of mugs, let's talk about lessons. I don't know how that link transpires. I just wanted to say the word mug again. We always end this podcast by talking about mugs. I mean, by talking about lessons we could learn. How to make a good cup of tea, how to make a good cup of coffee. What do you need? What do you need? What's a mug? That's what you need. A mug, right? No, lessons. Come on, lessons. What lessons would you take away from yesterday's game? Nathan, I'll come to you first. What lesson are we ending the sermon on this week?
I mean, you should never, ever put the milk in with the tea bag first. Sorry.
I started writing that down as well. You have.
I mean, there's a lot of lessons to be learned in there, but I'm going to say the lesson to be learned is more for us as supporters, just to maybe have a bit more patience.
I'll go along with that. Scribble that down. Clive, what about you?
I was going to say something similar. I think as fans, for your own sanity, don't raise the bar too high. If you lower your expectation, there's less chance of being disappointed. But that's pretty much what you were saying. So I'm going to come up with another one, which is don't leave a digestive biscuit in the dunk too long.
Yeah, get the right biscuit. And what you need for that as well is you need a good solid mug that retains heat.
Go away.
All right, well, let's have a look at this. Some coming in as well. Sue says, showing my mug off in the staff room tomorrow. Thank you. No, thank you. Nick says, we need to learn patience. Roger says, how to make a good cross into the box. That's what I'd be working on.
What would be on the front of Tattlers?
I'm
getting it all mixed up now.
I know.
I've got to leave.
I know, yeah. I think it is time to go. Nathan, Clive, thank you very much for your input. As always, we'll see you again on Tuesday night as the Stags take on Sheffield Wednesday at home in the Papa John's Trophy, the second of 3 group games in that one. That, though, is all we've got time for. Many thanks to you who've joined us. So the Stags lose by 1-0 at home to Barrow, but what lessons do we take away? Practice patience for your own sanity. Don't raise the bar too high. Get good crosses into the box. And from me, play to the whistle, Faz. If you're the last man, let him have a crack. 9 times out of 10, Bishop will probably save it anyway. Oh, and yeah, stick with Nigel Clough. Buy one of these bad boys. mtfcmatters.co.uk for more Mansfield Matters content, including mug purchases. From me, from Nathan, from Clive. We'll see you again on Thursday night with reaction to the Stags' home game against Sheffield Wednesday in the Papa John's Trophy, and a preview of Saturday's league game at home to Oldham. It's a huge, huge game, but we'll follow it anyway. Why? Because Mansfield always matters, as the Mugs. See you next time. Are you tired of the boiling hot water scalding your fingers when you have a cup of tea? What you need is a mug. mtfcmatters.co.uk